This virtual festival has been organized by Youth Celebrate Diversity, and the festival is proudly sponsored by Boeing.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie Earp. I'm a sophomore at Albuquerque School of Excellence in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Rohan Giganti, and I am a junior at Smoky Hill High School in Aurora, Colorado.
Our segment for the day is Native American women leading in politics. And with us, we have the influential and inspiring Ruth Buffalo.
We heard a lot about how Ruth Buffalo has broken the glass ceiling as an Indigenous woman in American politics, and we hope her words today will inspire you to become an ally for the Indigenous community if you aren't already. She has prepared a speech and will possibly answer some questions at the end of the segment.
Hi, everybody. G'day Sigids, Nidoshadzao Madashi, Nidoshadzi Nakbaga Madashi Mia Adeshheads, Mabe Sigids, Madzigidads Nakbaga It's such an honor to be in this virtual space with you, and I just want to say thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for your good work. I'm so inspired by Youth Celebrate Diversity, and it's so needed now more than ever throughout our country. As a mom of 4 children with a high school senior, 8th grade son, and 2 6-year-old kindergartners, we really appreciate the work that you're doing. And actually, one of my first community organizing events really came from being a mom. I was in grad school here in Fargo at NDSU, studying in the Master Public Health program, and one of my classmates and I, through conversation, decided that we were going to organize a peaceful demonstration to counter a very unkind entertainer that was coming to our community. And his platform was solely based on derogatory messages towards Native American people. And as moms, we felt that we needed to do something. And if there was anything that we could do within our reach to prevent that rhetoric from trickling back into our children's classrooms, we were going to help, push those conversations forward. Needless to say that entertainment show ended up canceling and never did come to our town here in Fargo, which was a nice thing. But, the work doesn't stop there. Again, each one of us has a responsibility to educate others and to help spread awareness of different cultures outside of our own. I grew up on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. I'm from Mandaree, but we've faced a lot of interesting experiences at a young age going off the reservation, mainly with the towns closest to the reservation. But again, as young people, you have such powerful voices. And at the young age of 10, there again, I experienced something firsthand. My younger sister, I'm the big sister of 3 younger sisters, and the sister closest to me in age was misdiagnosed with a health condition. And from that moment forward, I was committed to becoming a medical doctor back then. I wanted to fix our broken healthcare system, and I wanted to make sure that no other person had to experience what our family did, because we almost lost my baby sister. And then you fast forward to 2012, and we lost our baby sister to drunk drivers within the Indian Reservation. And so that road where the crash happened was a very narrow road, and it looked the same as it did when I was a little girl. And so through a series of phone calls and really not knowing what I was doing at that time, but what would be termed as advocacy and pushing for policy change, we were able to get that stretch of highway widened. It's not the be-all, end-all, but again, we want to try to find solutions to make a better life for everybody. I am a citizen of the Mandan Hidatsa Arikara Nation, and it's an honor to represent the people of District 27 here in South Fargo. It's a big responsibility. It's a 4-year term. And in my freshman legislative session, I was able to introduce 8 pieces of legislation, 7 of which passed. The piece of legislation that did not pass was a child care assistance bill. It had a very large fiscal note to it, but we were trying to reinstate the state median income level to what it was previously in 2016 before it got cut. When that program got cut and the state median income level changed, 890 children were kicked off that child care assistance program. And we know that through child care assistance program or different public services, we need them. It's good to have assist those services, public services there when you need them. And quite often, our young working families deserve the help they need. So we should have services there for them when they need it to access and be successful in the workforce. So I don't want to take up too much more airtime. I think I have a few minutes of time to speak, but I think I will open it up for questions or Q&A.
Yeah. So Sophie is having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I do have some questions here that we can talk about. So the first question is, how are you advocating for MMIW, which stands for Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, families in the midst of the oil and gas production in North Dakota? And could you also explain what is so significant about oil and gas production in North Dakota?
Sure. So I mentioned I'm a citizen of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation. My home community, it's not a town or a township, it's a community of about 790 people-ish. We had, significant amount of population growth from the second oil boom. So my home community of Mandaree is now referred to as the heart of the Bakken oil formation. So we see a lot of my entire family still lives in Mandaree, so with the pandemic, I'm not able to go back as often as I would like to visit. But during the second oil boom, we saw a lot of significant changes, increased oil truck traffic on the roads, increased population growth, which in turn brought an increase in drugs and crime. And so within Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, which is about 1 million acres of land, it's one of the larger land-based tribes in the Great Plains area and within North Dakota. Oftentimes we face challenges with a shortage of law enforcement. I experienced this also firsthand. One summer, I used to run my tribal nation's summer youth employment program. And so one summer we noticed a suspicious vehicle parked up on the hill by my mom's house. And so we called the main switchboard number, but we were told, sorry, all of our units are impartial on the other side of the reservation because there's a powwow there, or a celebration, as we call them. And so it was basically being left to fend for ourselves. So there's a lot of work being done to make sure that we have proper, ample coverage of law enforcement across the entire reservation, but that has been an ongoing issue. And so I'm just kind of giving you some background information of what I witnessed during this last what is termed as the second oil boom. As someone who ran a summer youth employment program, we saw or had one of our youth workers escape an abduction in broad daylight during the Mandaree powwow. So from that point forward, we reached out to one of our partners, the North Dakota Safety Council, and asked them if they could provide training to our youth workers. So they were able to provide a safety, stalker, predator awareness course, which was basically self-defense. And so when we had our youth workers for about 8 to 10 weeks, we tried to, a captive audience, we tried to make sure that we gave them enough tools to protect themselves, including first aid and CPR, a live at 25 defensive driving course, and then of course on the site training. So some of the things that I'm doing to help advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women families, especially in the Bakken oil region. In the past, I have done grassroots work here locally in Fargo. We had a young Indigenous mother who was 8 months along in her pregnancy go missing, the late Savannah LaFontaine Graywind. So we formed a local task force, and from this local task force, they gave me their wish list of legislative bills that they wanted to see introduced in the last legislative session. So I took those with me to Bismarck, the state capital, all of which those bills passed. So it was a package of bills, one focusing on data collection and also increased communication across different jurisdictions. So tribal, state, federal, a database that collects information on missing people, period, because what we found out in North Dakota was that we don't even collect data on missing people, period. And one of the other legislative bills that is now law is law enforcement training regarding missing and murdered Indigenous people. And we use the language people to include all genders. Women experience, high amounts of violence. 84% of us will experience violence within our lifetime. We're 10 times likely to be murdered, than any other group. And so that's just based off of what statistics are being reported, because we know that not all data collection is accurate, and we also know that there's work to do in reporting. Not everybody reports. That's a little bit of the work that I've been doing. But again, currently right now focusing on human trafficking prevention and awareness. And that was 2 other of the legislative bills that were passed, one for hotels and one for schools. We also had a resolution urging Congress to pass the Vanos Act, and then a comprehensive study looking at the intersection between missing and murdered Indigenous people cases and human trafficking. And so I believe those are all the bills. But so aside, I think legislative bills, it's a start, it's a step to address the issue. But one of our young leaders on the West Coast, who is a MHA citizen, shared, we're not going to be able to legislate our way out of racism. And I believe it's the same thing with this very issue, with the epidemic of MMIW. Putting laws in place for prosecution, holding people accountable, seeking justice is one means, but there's so many different areas that we need to focus on, which includes strengthening our communities, families, and individuals. So.
Well, I think that's all the time we have. But thank you so much, Ruth, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We loved hearing all your expertise, and we can't thank you enough.
No problem. Thank you for the invite. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye. Lots of good odds.